the secret files of Teletraan 2.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Files of Teletraan 2. It's me, it's Andy. We're back again. No gruff this time. We are bringing back from the depths of despair, from the 9 circles of hell, the man who rides on a tricycle of doom. It's Logan Bear. Sugarbear. Logan Paul. Hey, buddy.
Good theme tune. Hey, how is you, sweetheart?
I'm good, thank you. And how is the Paul? Because it's been a long time since. I'm sure it's been a super long time since we've had you on the Poopcast.
I think it's possibly like so long that there might be listeners that have never heard of me.
Dum. We need to get you to go to one of the Fluff and Hammer meets. Meet up with Gruff again.
Yeah, let's the old gang together.
Yeah, I mean, I won't be able to go to them, but you can go and you can touch his little face and, you know, have disgusting times with his sweaty body.
I stroke his beard.
Exactly, and play some Warhammer, because you play Warhammer. I mean, you don't play Warhammer well, you play with the Tau.
No,
so.
I play with the dirty Tau.
Yeah.
With lots of the pew-pew.
The fish people. The Japanese fish people.
The Japanese fish people who just, and yeah, I can't roll for shit.
Yeah, it's half the thing. It's like, it's skill, yep. And then it's like, how lucky are you? How lucky are you?
I have been playing for now 7 years. I have never won a game.
No one can be that unlucky, Paul.
I am so unlucky. I've drawn 2 or 3 times, but
oh, no.
I have never won a game.
Okay, yeah, I think you're going to have to go to Fluff and Hammer meet, play somebody and ask what you're doing wrong, because there must be something. There must be something. It's mad.
I'm rolling these dice. They're not dice. They're just rocks. They've not even got anything written on them.
Are you sure you don't have? Fine. Are your dice loaded? But instead of being loaded to be 6s, are they loaded to just be 1s? Is that the idea?
I have one-sided dice.
Wow.
I roll 1 all the time.
Wow.
Actually, they're one-dimensional. They don't exist.
Oh wow. Okay. Oh damn.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're here, though, to talk about comics. I came to you, Paul, in the dead of night and asked you to choose your favorite comic or a comic that you'd like to talk to me about today. And you chose, you'll need to tell me the year. This is Heart of Darkness, a Ghost Rider book.
This is from the early 90s. And now you just really pulled it out, mate. I was trying to figure out what bloody year it was. It was really at the start of the volume 2 of Ghost Rider, the Danny Ketch era. So this was like really early 90s. This was.
Is this the main Ghost Rider?
Now you're getting. This is my Ghost Rider.
Okay. Who is like if I was going to put a gun to your head and say who's the main Ghost Rider? Because there's like Barry Allen. There's like it's that idea. Is he the Barry Allen? Is he the other guy who I can't remember, the one that Mikey
Wally
really
West.
Likes? Wally West, thank you. The Wally West.
A good analogy. That's a good analogy. I think Barry Allen would be Johnny Blaze. The first Ghost Rider, the current main, a Ghost Rider. Where Wally West, everyone says, is the best Flash. I think Danny Ketch was the best Ghost Rider.
Oh, okay. Has he been used a lot? Did he have a relatively small run?
It was huge. It was like from the 90s through to 2000.
Oh, damn.
He was the version of Ghost Rider which brought forth the new horror run at Marvel. Ooh. Through we've got the new computer game at the moment, Rise of Midnight Suns.
That's right. Midnight Suns, yeah.
Midnight Suns was introduced and Ghost Rider was pulled it through into that. So it was used as a launch pad for the new books which came from that. So Blade, the new version of Blade, which became what the film version of Blade was, came through Ghost Rider. Morbius, as he looks like in the morphing time, Morbius, really sort of came to fruition through that Midnight Suns. So he was pretty much hardcore. He was in the Fantastic Four for a while as well. He was the Fantastic Four, this Ghost Rider.
Oh, was he? Okay.
Yeah, there was a period where the regular Four disappeared, so we had Hulk, and Greyhawk at the time, Wolverine, Ghost Rider, and I freaking forget who the fourth one was. But but we had an alternative Fantastic Four for a while, and Ghost Rider was in it.
What was going down at the time with the OG Fantastic Four? Or were they still around and this was just another team of four kind of deal?
That one, I just know they disappeared for a bit.
Oh, fair enough.
I only picked it up because Ghost Rider was in it.
I mean, that's fair enough.
I think give a shit. Don't give a shit about Reed Richards.
Oh, that's a shame. The Fantastic Four are really good, even though the cartoon wasn't. And I'll tell you why I never really connected with Ghost Rider. It's because he only made like a few appearances in the 90s cartoon, and each time they were pretty shitty. They were pretty bad introductions to Ghost Rider. The specific one I'll throw at you is the Fantastic Four one. Do you remember when he one-shot Galactus? Yeah,
that was epic. He can do that.
No, yeah, the concept isn't too bad. I don't really believe he could do that, right? You know, because it's Galactus. But the reason I didn't like him was because his dialogue was cringe.
Oh God, it was so awful. And the way the voice, and unfortunately, it didn't get much better in the film version.
Oh no! Well, it was a very different Ghost Rider in the live-action film.
Yeah, very but that different. Monotonous tone. No, that's sort of like, you know, it's like almost like he is deaf. You know how, I'm not sure if you've heard them do deaf in the Terry Pratchett books.
Oh yes, yeah.
The booming, monotonous, hello, how are you? That was pretty much how it always sounded like, whereas never sounded like that in my head.
See, in the Fantastic Four cartoon, he sounded like the emo kid that no one talked to in high school. Now, Galactus, you will face the 10,000 despairs of the innocent that you have brought upon you.
No, that sounds like,
he's lame.
That sounds like Kermit. You make it sound like...
to me, Kermit seems pretty emo, you know. You know.
Oh, I can understand that.
But no, I really didn't like, again, specifically the dialogue they wrote for him. It was really bad. It was really aggressively bad. I think he was a little bit better in the Incredible Hulk show, but the writing was usually a little bit better in that 90s show anyway. It's still rough. So I never had a really good introduction to Ghost Rider. Also, you mentioned Midnight Suns. I hear Midnight Suns is 50% a good game and 50% a nightmare fest. The 50% nightmare fest is the stuff that takes place at the Abbey Monastery, the hub, where you go and talk to everybody. Apparently, like, one of the little interactions is Blade started up a book club with the end of the world going on, so he can get close to Captain Marvel, because he doesn't have the confidence to go up and tell her how he feels about her. Blade! Big, strong, scary motherfucking vampire slayer Blade. Scared to go up to Miss Marvel, or Captain Marvel, to tell her how he feels about it. It's like, dude, you did Blade dirty.
Yeah, that's not on.
No, I'm like, wow.
And the Ghost Rider in that is my least favourite Ghost Rider as well.
That's the one with the car, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't like the design of the head, to be honest.
Yes, that's exactly it. It's the design of the head.
Yeah, I think the car looks pretty good. Again, in my head, Ghost Rider has a motorbike, but a cool hot rod car. Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, the face is it should be like a skull, but it looks like a hockey mask, like something Jason would wear.
I can see it. Yeah, and it's got like almost like little vents at the end. Almost like the Guyver vents.
Oh, yeah. Actually, that's a good point. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. Interesting. But Ghost, so why did you pick Heart of Darkness then, Paul? Why did you pick that as an introduction? Because like I say, I told you that this would be really a kind of intro for me for Ghost Rider.
Oh, for a number of reasons. One, it's got also Wolverine and Punisher in, other notable names.
Mm-hmm.
At this point in the Ghost Rider mythology, this part of you don't know much about this version of the character. So there's not really a lot to get your teeth into. So you do need sometimes other characters to sort of allow you to feel the heat, so to speak, to get into it.
Okay.
You can only get so much of a story of like, this is this mysterious creature. You after a while you go, no, just do what you got to do. But also, I picked up this one shot, as I say, when I first started looking at Ghost Rider, before I even got like through the first run, because being in the UK, you didn't usually get the direct editions of the comics that easily. We got it actually through a magazine called Havoc.
Oh, wow, okay.
It was done like one issue of the American was split between 4 weeks or something like that.
Oh, is it kind of like the idea that, because isn't that kind of what Titan did at one point? Titan used it, for those not aware, I think it was Titan, you can correct me if I'm wrong, were the people that kind of collected the American comics and put them into volumes.
Individual, yeah. Well, it's similar, but this was actually a comic, like not a A5 size, it was the A4 like comic.
Oh,
style.
Okay. Right.
And you'd have about 5 or 6 different strips of it in it, and each strip was a reprint of a recent or a relatively recent run. In this, and Havoc specifically, you had Ghost Rider, Deathlock, I think you had RoboCop, and
all right.
So it was just the 90s where like these sort of like, again, and it comes out. This is another reason why I've chosen this one. It's the start of the anti-hero boom. Where people, like the likes of Venom, where Venom wasn't always a villain, where being a hero didn't mean always he had to be a Captain America flag-wielding goody two-shoes. You could get your hands dirty.
Okay, I see. Is it the introduction of Blackheart as well? Because it seemed to suggest this is Blackheart's introduction.
To me, it was.
Okay.
I think I've never read it, and I've not really been able to dig into its full entry here. But you got the entry of Blackheart. You've also got an atypical representation of Mephisto.
I didn't like how he's drawn here. A weird, like, Skeksis with big purple milking nipples.
Indeed. And it's and I can never sort of get listeners might feedback on this. What was the delineation between the suave devil with the horns version of Mephisto? Usually, well, he never actually had horns. He just had his red flowy hair, didn't he?
Yeah.
And the version you get here, because this is the version you get here, is also very much the version you get in the Marvel UK at the time, because Marvel UK had a big run.
Right. Is it like Transformers, where it was kind of separated from the US stuff, or kind of intermixing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So you had the whole Mystech line going this time through comics called like Overkill, where you had a whole line, and they had a big storyline involving Mephisto, and he always looked like this in those comics.
Right.
So I don't know why they do that delineation, but I always like this little bit of the universe put aside. You didn't, but fair play.
Which came out, I'm assuming this came out before like Image and Malbolgia, right? Because I got Malbolgia-esque vibes, or maybe Malbolgia took from it.
I think it's almost same time-ish, I think.
Right, okay. Do you see where I'm coming from design? I mean, obviously it's not one for one, but he's very big. He's got a weird mouth. Yeah,
and he's definitely got those sort of like, I want to say, Nurglish type.
Yeah, I can see that
going on, but no, it might have been around at the same time. It's a sort of thing that you'd probably see linking through. No, I can see that. I've never considered that before. The link to Malbolgia, possibly again because Spawn himself was the big anti-hero of the time.
Yes, he was obviously based off of Nightwatch, right?
Yes,
yes. Nightwatch obviously came first, and then Todd McFarlane stole the idea, not the other way around. Totally.
No.
That's why Nightwatch today is a renowned character known across the world, and Spawn, it's pretty basic. No one knows him.
Nobody knows. No. Nobody knows about that truly awesome cartoon version that there was.
No. That was a Nightwatch cartoon that was stolen by Todd McFarlane, basically.
Yes, pretty much. So.
FYI, yeah.
Well, no, I chose this because you do have the intro to go. You say you'd never really dealt with my Ghost Rider, Danny Ketch.
That's right.
I thought this was a nice little taster session. We could have gone straight to issue 1, but like that first arc. But there's a lot going on there. There's a lot of bed work going on there.
Right. Okay.
So, which is good if you read it back and you feel that you're being pulled along in that first arc. And you're really enjoying it. But if you just sort of come into it fresh, and for a particular show like this, you want to get deep into it quickly. Or like a one-shot like this covers most of the bases that you need to know.
Yeah, well, I'll just quickly... It's not too complex of a story, like you said. The basic idea is we kind of start off at a little pagan festival where some druids are nicely spilling jam from the inside of a lady, giving birth to Blackheart. Blackheart comes and he's like, fuck you, Dad, I don't want to be your son no more. I want to be the king of hell. And that's kind of the setup for the premise. Danny goes to a lovely, small, quaint American town, gets put up in a board with a little girl, I think Lucy, and her mum. Meets up with Mr. Logan and Mr. Frank. Frank wearing a weird mustache for some reason. Why was he doing that?
He's a big fan of Queen.
Oh well, it is a Queen mustache. It's very, very, very thin. Thankfully, he gets rid of it. Like, I wasn't sure if that was meant to be shading or if it was a mustache, because we got the lot of Hatchet shading.
This was Hatchet shading to the extreme, this issue.
Yeah, I mean, me and Griff covered Spawn the Dark Ages, so, you know.
Oh, okay, okay. That was
But no, if we're talking about general... for the time, then yes, this is a lot of cross-hatching. But yeah, like I say, wasn't sure if it was mustache. Yeah. It was. Blackheart comes to all three of these heroes. He's the one that brought them together and said, hey, you're kind of anti-hero-y. If you just go evil, then we can go and kill my dad, and I can be king of hell, and I can give you things that you want. It's like, okay, cool. They say, get fucked. Blackheart then says, no, fuck you, steals Lucy, and it's off to the races to save the grill. Ghost Rider comes into the fray, and they save Lucy. Blackheart's beaten after getting the shit kicked out of him, and Malbolgia comes and said, ho, son, you're shit, but I love you, kind of. And that's the end of the story, pretty much. That's
pretty much it. It's like, you failed, I love you for trying.
Yeah, you're doing what you meant to.
The dynamic between Blackheart and... Mephisto in the entire 90s was brilliant for this. It was like, you just, good on you for trying.
I mean, where do you want to start off with this? Because I'll throw out that I liked it. It's not a very deep story, obviously, but I think, like, with only a few tweaks, right, this could easily be adapted for, like, do you remember Wolverine and the X-Men, that really good show?
That's very much so, yes.
You could easily just make 2 changes or something like that and just put this in as an episode in that show. The changes you make, instead of Mr. Catch coming in on the motorbike, you change that to Logan, and instead of Logan being at the house, it's him, and then you just let the episode play out.
Yeah, no, that would definitely work out, yeah.
And I think for a one-shot episode in a Wolverine, and why do you do it for Wolverine, Andy? Because, you probably couldn't... It's probably the reason why Ghost Rider never got his own show, right? You probably want Logan to introduce to gauge interest. If he gets a lot of interest, then you could go and do a Ghost Rider show easily enough.
Yeah. Well, because we've had so many iterations of Wolverine in all everything now. You've only really, in the last 5-6 years, had a Punisher TV series. Yeah,
and that was screwed with, and we'll probably not get any more, not with Disney at least. I don't want to see a clean Punisher, and that's what they get. To be fair, I don't really care that much about Punisher, because he's just a dude, and a dude with a gun, that's fine. I don't care that much.
No. But this is what he is, just a dude with a gun, which makes his presence in this and his ability in this even more badass.
I'll tell you, in my opinion, Punisher's best outing was Punisher Nick Fury, the arcade game.
Okay, I don't remember that. No,
you don't remember that? Oh shit! I'll try and find you an image while we're talking. But that was a really good arcade game. That was really good. But I would say that was his best outing.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
because he has got no powers. Well, not in this particular continuity. Play my geek card. He becomes a vessel for an angel at one time. But there we go. Yeah, it's one of the midnight part of the Ghost Rider link up. At one point, he can pull out. You have to send me a picture. He can pull out weapons from his coat, and he's imbued he's imbued with yes, that is pretty epic.
Yeah, you never played this arcade game.
No, I'm gonna have to now.
It's obviously not the best, but it's like, hey, do you like Streets of Rage? Like, they've got guns in this, so you can shoot people too. So, yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. But no, I do like Punisher for those little bits of like, is that all you've got type things? Is like he's like got one arm left. It's like the Black Knight from Monty Python's Holy Grail. It's like you just cut him down. He's like, I'm still breathing. You're dead.
I tell you, did you read you've read Cosmic Ghost Rider, didn't you? Or did you
Yes,
not?
I have.
Yeah.
And that's a link. It is good. Its thing is it tries a little bit too much to be a new Deadpool, in my opinion.
Oh, really? Okay, that's a shame.
Because he's basically gone insane. So some bits, he pulls it back. The character basically realizes he's not as, the Frank Castle in him comes out, and there are issues where he's more stable.
Right.
But the way they play it is very, very much like a Deadpool, in my opinion.
Ah, so it's not really true to Frank Castle in a lot of ways, then. Interesting. No. Okay, yeah.
No. Put it this way, there's a whole issue where he basically kills Thanos, but then has to have a baby Thanos to bring up.
That's right, yes, yeah.
Yeah, that should say very much the tone they're going for.
It's a weird one, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, I mean, let's talk about Heart of Darkness. Give me your thoughts on it. What do you think of Heart of Darkness, and how do you think the introduction of Danny is? Because it is kind of just like, here he is. And again, like you said, I think this is maybe a downside. It's the fact that he doesn't get to really do anything, and I think you mentioned that's because he's a mysterious character at this point, which was interesting to see. Like they didn't know. They didn't know who Ghost Rider was, or Mephisto didn't know who he was. It was even kind of interesting from Wolverine perspective, because this is a point where Logan doesn't know his past. And after all these years and all these iterations of Wolverine's like, his past's been gone over hundreds of times, and seems like it's a really introduction. Yeah.
We literally know for Wolverine now his conception through to his eventual death, and an old man Logan.
Yeah, exactly. And here it seems like he, at this point, didn't even know that he was part of the Weapon X project, which again was kind of interesting. Kind of a staple in time to just show whereabouts it was. But how did you think Ghost Rider was handled here?
Good for the time. You say they don't really go into Danny that much himself. In the comics at this point, you do get a lot more of the Danny and him basically trying to understand what the Ghost Rider is, and they do bring it out a little bit in the thing where Blackheart nicks his bike. The whole at this point, it's like, oh my god! See, the bike, or rather the fuel cap, which we learn later is a medallion of power.
Oh, okay.
To tell you, if we got time, the retcon of the 90s Ghost Rider in those 10-15 years is insane. The level of origin overlapping. But we might get there, we'll get there. But at this point in time, all we know is when innocent blood is spilt, he touches the petrol cap on the bike glows, he touches it, he turns into Ghost Rider to do vengeance, to deal with the innocent blood being spilt. That's the general gist. That's all he knows. It's not whereas previously the Johnny Blaze one, he turned at night only, tended to be, when there was evil around. He had no control of it. Danny has an element of choice.
So for the previous one, it was almost like a werewolf kind of transformation.
Yeah,
like you said, no choice.
Yeah, in the continuity at the time, he was actually possessed by, and as explained in this issue, which is good, he was actually possessed by a demon called Zarathos.
Right.
Which was put into him by Mephisto as a way to control him and to get souls. So at this time, you thought Ghost Rider was linked to this demon Zarathos, but we didn't. This one seemed a very different creature. So at this time, you think his powers are linked to the bike. So the bike is taken from him, and then he realizes he can transform without it and turn other bikes into what is required. So it pushes the mythology a little bit more. It asks a little bit more questions in that regard. So in regards to Danny, yeah, you don't really get much of Danny other than more angst, really, than anything else.
Not too much, though, thankfully.
No. But again, this is a very light story for characters itself.
Yeah.
It felt very much like this is a set piece to allow 3 characters to grow a little bit, but also just to allow them to play. I felt this was a very much an action-driven episode.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah. From the sounds of things, it sounds like this Ghost Rider is technically a little bit stronger because he doesn't. If his bike is stolen, like we see, it would be disastrous for the previous one, seemingly. And with this, it's just like, I just make a new bike. I really did like the transformation scene where like the skin just kind of turns to purple goo and just kind of dribbles off of him. I think that's a really nice sequence. It shows the kind of horror aspect of turning into Ghost Rider.
Which again is what attracted a teenage Paul to this particular comic.
Yeah, I can see it. Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, because Spider-Man just puts on a suit. He's done.
You just imagine it. You just see it. You know, on the front cover of a comic. I can always remember that first issue of Havoc, where you basically got the bike with Ghost Rider on the front cover, a flaming-headed skull person on a bike which looks like it's got a demon front. And it's a big black bike as well. And it just screamed cool.
And that was what drew you to it, was it?
Full on. It was that first image. I literally saw it. I can remember the time we were on holiday with my parents in a Scottish town. We were on the holiday and I saw it on the first issue in a comic shop there. Or not comic shop, a news agent. And I went, I'm having that. That looks so cool. And I just ate it up. So that's where it all started, and then later on, I started getting the actual comic when it actually could come into comic shops. And I knew they existed.
yeah, and it pulled you in from there. I get you.
Oh yeah. This and the '90s X-Men's. That's what's really cemented me.
Chris Claremont's run. Yeah. I mean, whenever people talk about X-Men from the '90s, they're like Chris Claremont's run. That's the shit.
With Lee doing the art.
Yeah, it's had some banging covers. Like, the covers for that are just great.
Yep.
Well, here's a question. Because you mentioned the art, what do you think of the art, then, for this? It's very much of the time, but not bad. Very much of the time. Not bad.
Not the time. Not what I wanted, because there was the artist who did Ghost Rider at the time, Texera. He definitely had a similar sort of... There was hatching in there, but it was more realistic. The angles, the faces looked a little bit more grounded in reality, so to speak. This one's a little bit more expressionistic at times. You know, it's a little bit more angular going on. So it was all right. It was in the same sort of ballpark, but it wasn't my favourite. But I still liked it, and I think when he got those extreme scenes like the face melting, and later on when Ghost Rider basically lays physically, there's a 2-page spread where he physically lays into Blackheart. He's like, no. He literally takes his gloves off and go, I'm going to get a face full of bone.
One thing for me that I wasn't a fan of for the art was random times when the artist did really over-pronounced lips.
Oh, I've never known. No, you're quite right, particularly on the female.
Yeah, on Lucy, she's got incredibly super pronounced lips. And sometimes it crops up. Yeah, super crazy. They pop up on Danny a few times, like on the page where he's like rushing to try and find his bike, and the last panel is where he says "I've," and he's got the big eyes and then really big, like kissable lips. Is how I describe them. It's like it's a little bit much. They're a little extreme every now and again. But generally, I think the artwork was good for the time. You know,
So it was good. Good chest shots. There is lots of masculine, like between Wolverine and Punisher. Their tops are off a lot, and it's well defined, but it's not like full on. Oh God, who's that really awful?
Rob Liefeld.
Yeah, it's nowhere near Liefeld. This is proper. No. This is just a man with muscles, and it's well done, I thought.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, it's not. There's no point where like, you look at a foot and you're like, oh my god, what is that foot? It's 5 feet long and thin and looks like it can explode. The only time where it gets a bit jiggly is when Blackheart summons his green, jiggly friends, which, they're meant to be. So what do you expect? Meant to be kind of gangly, goopy little boys and girls, I guess.
You never find out what the hell they are. I think they're just general.
They're just demons, right?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
I just remember them from Marvel vs. Capcom 2. You could summon purple ones and orange ones, I think. That's what I know Blackheart from, Marvel vs. Capcom 2. I always thought he looked really cool design-wise, and I still do.
It's a huge, greatly good design. I actually think he looks better than Mephisto in general.
Yeah, in a lot of ways. Like, Mephisto's just kind of generic red devil person man. Well, this is... it's 90s. That's Blackheart's design. It's 90s as fuck. Kind of xenomorphy. If the xenomorph was just kind of silhouetted and made more into a man shape.
And also, it just feels bad because they did him so dirty in the film.
Oh, he was in one of the films, was he? Oh,
he was the main villain in the first film.
Was he? Oh, I don't remember much about the first film apart from not liking it. And then hearing the second one was much worse somehow, and I was like, oh no.
The second one was worse in general, but it had such glorious moments.
You mean like the peeing fire?
No.
Oh.
There's tangent, but this is me. People would know me for tangents. There is a couple of brilliant Cageisms. Nicolas Cage pulling it on, and it's the perfect one where he's as I said, he's playing the Johnny Blaze version where if he's around evil, it's more he's got less control over the rider in him. So he goes with this lady to basically a huge den of thieves, and he gets all twitchy, and they're trying to get information about this guy, and he's not turning on. So he pins the guy against the wall, and he starts going, he's scratching at the walls, he's scratching at the door. It just goes full on Nicolas Cage crazy, and it's just hilarious, but not for always the best things.
Yeah, you kind of you want a good version of Ghost Rider for a film, but when they going to do a TV show at one point, or did they do a TV show?
Yeah, he was in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and that was he was in the car version, and that's actually right. He has done in that was actually better than the comic version. He actually done it. It was a nice melding in many ways of all the others.
Oh, okay. So they tried to blend a bit for that. I guess that makes sense. Yeah.
In regards to look, it was the car version. Mm-hmm. In regards to some of the characterization, as in the sort of the person itself, it felt a lot more balanced.
Right. Okay.
But no, it's a tangent over. But no, that Blackheart I loved Blackheart, and I say Blackheart becomes a distinct more of a Ghost Rider villain than Mephisto or the others. It's definitely a Ghost Rider creation or Ghost Rider 90s mythos.
I would assume that's to not degrade Mephisto in terms of his threat level, because you can't have Ghost Rider keep on beating the devil every single time. You got to have him kind of off to the side. It's oh no, if Ghost Rider fights him, we got to save that for a really big thing. So we need to have not a jobber, but we need to have someone who can get beaten up and it's not quite as detrimental to them. He's the son of the devil. It's not the devil, because if Ghost Rider can just beat Mephisto, we're done.
Which is what he's doing now, because I'm not sure if you know more of the last 3 or 4 years, we've gone back to Johnny being the main Ghost Rider.
Okay,
but he's also the King of Hell, or was,
right?
Which, and there are scenes where, because Mephisto does this whole bit at one point where he takes over Las Vegas, and he gets imprisoned by Johnny. To the extent, though, he's being pulled behind the bike on just being literally bitch dragged, as it were. You know what I mean? Bike's going full throttle.
Yeah.
Mephisto is basically face in the thing being pulled across Vegas.
All right. Poor Mephisto.
So, yeah, Mephisto's sort of like that. Ultimately, he's fine because again, Mephisto is always the ultimate Loki type thing. He's always got a game on.
That's right. Yeah.
It takes because even, and we're going there is a sequel to this. leaping forward, where Blackheart wins against Mephisto.
Yeah.
But then later on, you find out it was all a plan. It was all a plan.
Yeah, I know Mephisto primarily through the Infinity Gauntlet. You know, where he's there at the start. I liked him in that. I thought he was cool in that. But then again, I really like Infinity Gauntlet. I think it's a really interesting book.
It very much so is, and all the lead into it, how Thanos deals with
Thanos' quest is so good. It's why I find the MCU so disappointing, because it doesn't really show how good Thanos is.
Yeah, it's like how, again, tangents. It's like how they've never really done a real good Bane on telly.
No, it's true.
Because Bane's intelligent.
Yeah,
Bane is the mental balance to Batman, and the same way Thanos he's a powerhouse, but he's also a mental powerhouse. He's super intelligent as well.
Yeah, being the games master was crazy. Like that was something that just didn't happen in the Marvel universe, really.
No.
Same for the dude who had the Power Stone. Granted, I think he was just a jobber, wasn't he? But Thanos literally couldn't beat him up. So it's like, how do I outsmart this moron?
And that's the whole thing. It's the brains and brawn, which they definitely didn't do in the MCU.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah. And they didn't have him go after death, you know? Lovesick boy. Loves death.
Well, I think they're saving that for the eventual overlap with Deadpool, because that's going to be the fun bit.
Oh, I don't want that. I don't want NTR Thanos. I don't want that. I don't want cooked Thanos. That's not fun. This is that time. Here's the thing that I thought was... I don't know if you noticed this. Lucy's sister, right? The panel where she's leaving the house and walking away. Is it me or does she look like Sarah Connor?
We're scrolling through. Where she's like, oh my God, it does.
Yeah, it looks like Sarah Connor, right?
Mommy. So it says, Mommy, please don't go.
That's right.
He's bad. He'll make you do bad things, Mommy.
Oh, Mummy's already done bad things, sweetie.
Oh, yeah.
Why do you think I've got a daughter? Oh, no. Yeah, I mean...
What gets to me is that literally the shot to the left. Why is Wolverine he's just skiing down the banister?
Hey, he's a cool dude. He's into the action. Also, the stairway was filled up with dudes, so... ski down,
Yeah,
he's small and Canadian. He can get there.
Yep.
Yeah.
But no. So yeah, everything in this I liked. It wasn't brilliant. It's a great intro.
Yes.
To the idea of Ghost Rider, if you just wanted a taste, it's a good taster.
And like I said, I think this is pretty much perfect for if you wanted to adapt this into like a one episode of a TV show, of a cartoon show. Obviously, you remove a bit of the gore and stuff, but then you get to introduce like Ghost Rider and Punisher to a much lesser extent, and you might expand some kids' minds instead of just having Ghost Rider come up and one-shot Galactus. I think this would be a better introduction than that, personally.
See, again, can do it.
Yeah.
The penance stare, which hasn't really been used much, doesn't get used much in this, is pretty powerful.
It's just fucking shit in that episode. It's just terrible. It's awful. I don't know.
No, I'm fine with you.
Yeah. Well, we've also got another comic because the digital version that Griff sent me had Heart of Darkness and Dark Design. So now what is Dark Design? Because this was unplanned. We didn't originally choose to do this. So can you explain what Dark Design was? Because it feels like it takes place like 5 years later in terms of like real world. Like the artwork's very different. Lucy's grown up to be a teenager. The sister's gone, and it feels like a much more like we saw Ghost Rider at the start of his story. This feels like Ghost Rider's now established, or this version of Ghost Rider's now established, and this is just a random adventure. Is that about right?
Pretty much. It's just like 5, maybe close to 10, because one thing you'll notice, it's Wolverine's bone-clawed Wolverine in that one.
I didn't even notice. Oh, my God. So
this is post... Oh, God. I forgot what the name was called, but Extinction Saga or something like that. Basically where Magneto pulls all the adamantium out of Wolverine.
Oh, Wolverine, you'll live through anything, won't you?
Yeah, indeed.
How did he get the skull out with the brain?
Well, no, it just basically melted the adamantium.
Oh,
in him,
that makes
and
more
then just
sense.
pulled it out of his pores.
I thought you meant like he just pulled the entire like unmelted skeleton out, and I was like, what about his brain? His brain would be in there like a little jar.
Oh, it would have been, yeah. That'd be very bad.
Did he just turn to like goo then? Did he turn to jelly as soon as it came out? No, because he still had his bones. No, he still had his bones. That's right. Yeah,
the adamantium is sort of bonded to the bone itself.
Yeah.
But this is the point again where you didn't realise that until that point you always thought the claws were part of the Weapon X program. Yeah, that they put them in that, but no, this is when they did the actual Logan Wolverine Origins pull-in, so it overlapped with that to tell you that he's had them since birth, the bone claws.
Do you like the idea that he had the bone claws? I think I prefer them being a Weapon X skeleton thing.
I like I know he's such an overused character, but I do like the idea of Wolverine being the beast, but the ultimate id of humanity, but always pulls it back.
I think my issue with it is I think it just feels like it's too much, because he's got two powers then. He's got his healing factor, and he can do this thing with his bones. And that was, I think until recently, that like a mutant having two different powers was quite rare. Now
they're coming out with all the wazoo, that's secondary mutations. And
that's right, yeah. I kind of know about that, but not a huge amount, obviously. Now, if you told me like Apocalypse had multiple mutant powers, I'd be like, well, yeah, he's like thousands of years old. Okay, I don't mind that, he's Apocalypse. But Wolverine having multiple ones, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not going to say that it's like, oh, Wolverine's a shit character because he's got bone claws as well, blah, 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 blah. But it just feels, it's strange. And I guess this is why the Marvelous Capcom 2 had two versions where he had the bone claws and the normal claws, which I didn't quite understand as a kid either. I was like, what? Why? What?
And leaning into that sort of like further mutation thing, again, this is again showing my knowledge of 90s, 2000s X-Men is ridiculously geeky. Once it was taken out of him, you found that the adamantium was stopping his evolution. So he got more. He found that as he was getting more bestial, as he was like getting all more crunched up, he was basically lost his. He was getting more bestial overall for a while.
Oh, okay. Is this why his hair's a lot more rugged? Shall we say?
Yeah, it's getting more a bit like he's getting more. Yeah, more rugged. Yeah,
I wasn't sure if it was just like the style of the time, because to me he looked visually very similar to Age of Apocalypse, like design wise, and I wasn't sure if that's what they were trying to emulate. I didn't realize it was a kind of there was a reason for it.
I think it was like serendipitous. It was leaning into that period as well. Yeah, very much Age of Apocalypse. But maybe it was in the sort of the behind the scenes. They were doing the more lean to the fact that he's more animalistic.
Okay.
Without the adamantium, that's how it's done. You can never tell what era you're in for a Frank coat. It doesn't really change.
He's got a ponytail. There you go. He's different.
Art-wise, this is very much like era style, which Ghost Rider's always been from me to the start. This is where I was saying the difference. It's still got those. The artwork is very much still got the darkness and the hatch lines that you saw in the first one, the Heart of Darkness, but with a bit more realistic life or more 90s comic book style body work.
Yeah, in terms of the colouring and the artwork, specifically for the colouring, they've lent heavily into this era's just like light sources, like intense light sources. So Fires will like cast hard oranges over most of the cast, which obviously wasn't a thing in the previous issue that we talked about. It's very like there's blue lighting in some places. Randomly, there's orange light on Logan at some points. There's green lighting on people. It's one of those styles where as soon as you see, you're like, oh yeah, this is the 90s. This is definitely the 90s. Previously, I was like, this is probably early 90s. This is mid to late 90s. It felt, especially with the Corrupt. I looked at the Corrupt and was like, wow. Wow.
Like, somebody saw Hellraiser and thought, we can make this a 90s comic.
You know what they kind of like the Corrupt at the beginning? The Corrupt kind of reminded me of what's the fucking group in the X-Men? The Lady Shiva, you know, long claws, and she's got like there's the dude who has half of his body which is a tank. Is that what they're called?
Marauders. The Marauders, yeah.
Yeah, they kind of gave me a bit of that vibe. Not exactly, obviously, but a little bit of, you know, we're in leather. We've got a group shot. We've got random spiky shoulder pads. Got random cyborg bits in it as well. We got some strange fucking sci-fi guns, but it's okay.
Well, they have to be sci-fi-ish or something to take down Ghost Rider.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense.
You had a full-on Zat or Trazat take him down from the...
Yes, and there's a Krakoom as well. You get some very expressive sound effects in this, which is quite fun.
Did they remind you of a certain person who wrote a lot of Transformers?
Perhaps, yes. But I'm okay with that. Let me quickly go over the story of what this one's all about then. So Ghost Rider and Frank and Wolverine have met up because Lucy has psychic powers now. Okay. Doesn't really talk too much about that. Don't worry about it. Just accept it. So Ghost Rider's helping Lucy and not his sister, I guess. Just person in the town, I suppose. The town's being taken over by Blackheart, who has corrupted people because he's having daddy issues once again, and he wants to marry Lucy because Lucy helps his insanity. Apparently, Blackheart has a bout of insanity that seems to creep in, and Lucy has a calming presence, being psychically powered or something. Okay. So it's once again all boiling down to Blackheart wanting a way to become the assassin that apparently he was made to be so he could kill his father. He wants to try and get the boys to come on his side. Again, it doesn't work. He fights them off or tries to corrupt them. They say no to that. And they beat Blackheart, and that's the end of it. But it's not, because Lucy's nice to Blackheart as the tower's collapsing around him. It's like he's all sad. I assume because someone was nice to him for a change. He had the blood of the innocent on a blade. He didn't need just the entire innocent person, and apparently the blood of the innocent on the blade was enough to kill Mephisto. And Blackheart killed him. A little bit dramatically out of nowhere. So he wins, and that's just the end. He's just in hell, and he's all happy.
Yeah,
Is that about right?
That's pretty much it. Very much, other than the end, beatish like the first one, to be honest.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. It's similar.
Yeah.
It feels like there's a bit more here, but also not much of an explanation. Like, how long is Blackheart being in control of this town? It seems like a while. It's weird that there's like a fighting force of people with guns who are just, I guess it's America, so I don't know, might be Detroit, where they're just going out and just eliminating these people, the people who have been corrupted. Who cares if we murder them? I mean, they've been controlled by the devil, so fuck them.
Yeah, it was a little bit more hardcore. Well, there's things, this is the same town as before. Yes. And if you remember, in the town before was pretty much mid-America. Like you say, in the first scene, you saw people on a hill. So it's in the middle of countryside and stuff like that. It's just basically a little town, which sort of like John Carpenter style.
Yes.
It's suddenly become the backdrop of The Crow.
You know what this is, Paul? This is Back to the Future 1 versus Back to the Future 2 when Biff took over.
That's it. That is it.
We need Tannen Tower somewhere in the background here.
Yeah, you need somebody with, like a bold guy with a shotgun. I'm going to get you slackers.
But you make a super fair point. Like I in my head, I realized this was the exact same place. But for some reason, my stupid brain, Wolverine, didn't click that. Yeah, it's a small mid-town that has somehow, in 5 years, turned into effectively Detroit or like New York City. It's got massive skyscrapers in the background. It's got graffiti everywhere. And some really weird architecture as well, which just looks kind of alien, like Geiger-esque.
You can imagine possibly some of that's Blackheart risen bits from hell, but in most cases, it's like they've had some major redevelopment going on.
Yeah, and it's gone to shit really quickly as well. The town boomed for like a year and then turned to shit. What a bummer.
It's the American dream.
Oh, sad times. I do like the fact that we get to see Blackheart corrupting each of the heroes.
Yeah.
The corruption parts were kind of okay. Like Frank was the basic one of I found all the killers. I've killed them all before. The Ghost Rider one was a bit more interesting, but I didn't, obviously not knowing much about Ghost Rider, and not knowing much about the character, Danny, I think you said his name was, like him being in a dream world and Ghost Rider going to kill Danny seemed strange, but that's because I had no real context for what was going on. It was an interesting idea, but again, I was just kind of reading it going, what? They're two separate entities. I get that. That's fine. Is that how this Danny became Ghost Rider around the gravesite?
Yeah.
What's going on there?
It is. It's Cypress Hills Cemetery. He and his sister Barbara. Yeah, they're just kids. They're hanging around doing things. They basically stumble over an assassination of somebody being assassinated by what look like ninjas.
Is it the hand?
As it happens, no, it's not. It's a whole other ninja cult, death cult.
Oh, there's another one. Okay,
yeah,
sure. All right, all right.
And oddly enough, I've never really understood this. Almost next door to the cemetery is a junkyard. Or at least, but basically, his sister gets shot, right? Mm-hmm. And he's all distraught, and he comes across the bike, but it's the bike in a normal bike style status.
You mean it was original Ghost Rider's bike?
No.
Okay.
It was just a bike there.
Just a bike, right?
In later issues, you saw again, it's retconned that his mother's bike was left there, and
right.
Yeah, but in this case, he just stumbles across the bike in a delirious state because he's just seen his sister killed. He has blood all over his hands, and again he puts he's just like, what is this? Who put this? And the blood gets on the cap of the fuel cap, and that's his first transformation into Ghost Rider.
Right.
And that is literally as it was. He transforms. Tries to save his dying sister, fails, because the first thing he basically transforms, carries the body to hospital, and then starts going after the people who blames for the deaths.
So in this vision, it's meant to be Ghost Rider is thinking that Danny is the person that killed the sister. Is that the idea? But it's actually him. Yeah. Okay.
Because Danny and Ghost Rider, the spirit, they become more close over time.
Oh, they begin to interact with each other.
Yeah, they do to a large extent. So they become almost separate entities, or they overlap. There's a bit, and this is where the Midnight Suns come in. There's a bit, and he dies. He gets killed while still mortal in a human form.
Okay.
And as he's about to die, he transforms into Ghost Rider. So throughout the Midnight Suns thing, he can't transform back because
he's dead. Okay.
So there's a whole thing where they're having to go through Doctor Strange, basically bring his soul back from wherever.
Yeah.
So that's all the part of that. So they are linked, but they are separate entities.
Is the way that they interact kind of like Eddie and the symbiote, or is it a different way that they interact? Would you say?
Degree. Later on, there is an overlap in they can talk to each other, but it's more often than not that they'll have overlaps in a void type thing, or they'll talk to each other. And dreams and stuff like that. There's not as great a direct one-to-one conversation.
Right. Okay. So they do talk, but like you say, it has to be in a very specific, unconscious state. It's not just like you say on the fly. Okay. All right. That's fair enough.
And the Ghost Rider without Danny as a anchor is basically more and more driven by a purpose of vengeance rather than a level of humanity. It's Danny that provides the anchor to basically stop him going absolutely insane.
Okay.
Yeah. Because here we go, full on continuity, skipping over a huge amount of continuity, which I'll about that. You essentially find out that the spirit is the angel of death.
Okay. Is he, when you say the angel of death, is he meant to be? Oh, what's his name from fucking DC? The guy that Hal Jordan turned into for a while.
The Spectre.
Is it the same idea? Or is it
level
different?
of power. It's similar. The Spectre actually is more like the Ghost Rider. Full stop. The Spectre is a spirit Spectre is the spirit of vengeance for DC.
Right.
But he's more powerful. He's of the level of power because the Spectre is almost godlike. In regards to power
that's right. Yeah, he's silly.
And the basic core energy of Ghost Rider in this continuity is the Angel of Death, as in, if back to probably at the moment with he who is above, is it something?
Oh,
like that?
The one above all.
The one above all, like one level below type thing.
Oh, like what's his name? The Grand Tribunal kind of level. Yeah,
he's cosmic level, powerful at his heart. But that's where you ultimately find out that it got trapped and corrupted over time. I talked about the medallion during the Midnight Suns thing. There was a whole thing where you'd find out it's definitely not Zarathos in there because Zarathos is released, and you find that Blaze is still around. Mm-hmm. And Blaze is Danny Ketch's brother.
Okay.
And the reason why they got similar power, you find Blaze comes back, doesn't turn into the Ghost Rider at this point, but gets Hellfire powers, like mostly through a shotgun, which is kind of cool. You find out they are holders within themselves of parts of the Medallion of Power, which...
All right.
Yeah. And there's basically lots of Spirits of Vengeances out there, which are parts of that part of this sort of cadre, and that's sort of touched on later, where you do have lots of different versions of the Ghost Rider in later versions.
How do they interact with Mistress Death? Are they below her, serve her, or a different kind of thing altogether, or is it not quite clear?
I think that's not quite clear. I've never seen that full interaction.
Okay, that's interesting, because I thought like Mistress Death was like the concept of death. Thus, any like Angel of Death would have to be subservient to her, as like they bring them souls kind of thing.
I'd have thought possibly. Again, I have not. You've brought something I've never even considered.
Oh, okay.
There's not been that overlap with that level of cosmicness.
I suppose Mistress Death is like pretty high in the cosmic chain of things. Yeah.
We don't, until we got the Cosmic Ghost Rider. The closest thing we got to a cosmic level Ghost Rider is we actually went forward in the future for the Guardians of the Galaxy.
All right, okay.
And there was a Ghost Rider of the future, which, to be honest, wasn't 100 miles away from where we went with Cosmic.
All right, okay. So they kind of pinched some ideas from, or copied some ideas. Okay.
Yeah, and that was, again, the full-on 90s. But in there, so we went through so much retcon as like, so he's not Zarathos. Zarathos is a separate being. He's part of this like group called the Midnight Suns, or the Spirits of Vengeance, which has parts of the Medallions of Power. Then it retconned itself again by saying there's a particular spirit called Noble Kale, which is the spirit, and then they ended up saying the actual underlying spirit, when you strip everything away, is the Angel of Death.
Right.
And then I've got no idea how then they connected it past the 90s Ghost Rider run, because by this time Ghost Rider's been pulled out of Danny. It's its own separate entity. Danny's not got any powers, but Johnny gets more Ghost Ridery, and and then we later on. This is like well after what we're reading in Dark Designs. Sorry, this is like totally taking us away from Dark Designs.
No, it's fine. I mean, I kept asking questions because I'm interested to know.
Yeah, straight after Danny gets powers again, but he thinks it's if you're not sure if have you seen like a version of Ghost Rider with his blue flame?
No.
In any artwork, that he gets basically through what he thinks is a positive person. Ooh, guess what? It wasn't. Little tastes of his old power, and gets told that all these Spirits of Vengeance are actually being corrupted, and he needs to gather the power again from them. And what it was is there's this actual angel in heaven called Zadkiel, who basically wants the powers of the Spirits of Vengeance, essentially the Angel of Death, to break down the walls of heaven and become the new god. Oh,
one above all, or like God? Because
I think it's one above all, because it's pretty much full on.
Because I think until they introduced the concept of the one above all, they just said God, but I don't know if they mean God or if they mean the one above all. Because in my eyes, they're two different things. Like, because you have lots of gods in Marvel, like Thor is a god, etc., etc. Zeus is a god, but then the one above all is like, I guess, the Christian interpretation of God.
Which I think it definitely was the Christian interpretation of God.
Okay.
Because the Zadkiel was an angel, a proper angel, who basically, like Lucifer type style, fell and basically wanted to take over heaven. And he tricked Danny to gather the Spirits of Vengeance powers to do it. And now, and then back again, Johnny's just a Ghost Rider. He's taken over hell. And oddly enough, in the last run they had recently, they had Danny become a different spirit. He became the spirit of corruption because while Mephisto sort of like had links and sort of did the pencil work, so to speak, on Ghost Rider.
Yeah.
You know the limbo hell from like magic and stuff like that. There's that other hell.
No, I know there's like 9 realms of hell or something in Marvel, each controlled by a Lord of Hell, like Nightmare and Hela, and I don't know the other ones, like El Diablo, isn't he one of them or something?
I think there's one called Callisto or something, Caliban or something like that, but that's called Limbo, because that's where Nightcrawler goes through, because it's related to Nightcrawler. That hell, it's where magic,
Colossus' sister.
She becomes the queen of hell at one point.
Okay.
The main ruler there says to Danny, like, Johnny is basically losing his humanity because he's king of hell, and he was getting more, basically saying, just losing it. So basically says, okay, I'll be your supporter. So he became a different spirit. He became a spirit of corruption. But that's when they cancelled that Ghost Rider line.
Oh.
So God knows what they did after that. God knows what they did there.
Oh, well. Yeah, because I suppose, like, swinging back round, I get to see, back to the comic Dark Design, I guess we get to see, like, Blackheart is a bit more... The idea of what Blackheart can do is a little bit more deliberately exposed here. Like, he can actively corrupt people with like these black veiny things. He can even corrupt Ghost Rider, which seems to be a big deal, like something that shouldn't be possible. He's also sporting a rain jacket for some reason. I guess it's the 90s, so he needed some clothes. I think he looks better without the it's not a rain jacket, it's a full on like the Crow cloak, like leather jacket. I think he looks better without it personally, but I guess they needed to pimp him up a bit. Yeah, I think you made a good point, though, that this is a very, very, very similar story to the previous one, probably deliberately, just later on down the line. I do think it's weird that he actually gets Lucy dressed up in like a wedding dress, a really shit wedding dress, by the way, as well. Really shit. He
definitely went to Best Buy for that one.
Yeah, like he got like that one on sale because it was done in the 70s or earlier. It's like, ugh.
But I do see that bit. I always think of the bit where Beetlejuice is about to get married.
Yeah. I can see that, yeah. I do like his temple, though, with all the weird statues and then the tentacles and big curtain. That's kind of nice. We've got a flair for the dramatics, being the king of hell or future king of hell and all that. I do think my issue with this one is, apart from it being very similar to the previous one, it just kind of ends. It just goes, I killed your dad, and he goes, oh, okay.
Yeah, It to me, it looked better.
Yes.
But in regards to the impact and that, I always felt it was weaker than the original.
Yeah, especially for a big thing like killing Mephisto to be just brushed off. Like, like literally it's set up in one page and it's done in one more page, in 2 panels.
Yeah.
Actually,
it's in one panel. Yeah, this had full-on ramifications for the rest of the Marvel Universe.
Yeah, I bet it would do, yeah.
Yeah. And it wasn't like retcon or anything like that. Oh, no, it's not like that. This stuck for a while. This did.
Oddly enough, I think this comic would have benefited if it didn't focus. It didn't focus on Ghost Rider and Punisher and Wolverine. I think this would have been better if this was a one-shot Blackheart series with those 3 in it. You know, it's the same story but told from his perspective instead.
No, I can see that. I think, like almost like a Thanos sort of on his throne, sort of like slowly going slightly insane type thing, and trying to keep it under control, but how he's dealing with it. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, and then you could have the build up. You could have the setup of like Blackheart being sick of his dad. You could have the setup of like just like the final conflict. Like you could see him being slapped around more and stuff like that. Obviously, you'd have the conclusion of like the three of them stop him and take Lucy back and everything like that, and then you could have had that quickly, but we could cut off a lot of the introduction pages of like Ghost Rider and the three coming together, Ghost Rider being corrupted, because at the end of the day, Ghost Rider being corrupted had no impact on the story. He gets corrupted and then it's done. Don't worry about it.
He said, nah.
Yeah, exactly. He shrugs it off.
He had like laser surgeon, all the black tattoos that had come across him. He went, nah, not having that.
Yeah, exactly. It looks like, I think you made a good point though. It looks nice. It's more dynamic, right? Yeah. And stuff like that. Yeah. But at the end of the day, you just kind of go, yeah, okay, yeah.
There wasn't even that much of a fight as there was in the first one.
No, oddly enough,
they burst through the doors. They go, right, having it, stop it, and that's it. I think they have like a couple of hits on each. And he's like going, oh, sorry.
Yeah, they kicked the shit out of Blackheart even faster than previously. Punisher unloaded shots onto him previously. What do they do here? Ghost Rider wraps his burning chains around him.
Yep.
Wolverine stabs him once.
Yep.
Punisher shoots him once. And...
Yep. He's on the floor. That's it. He's on the floor then.
Yeah, and then they just beat the shit out of him, and it's over. Yeah. It's like, oh.
Yeah. And then Lucy goes over and says, "You're right, love."
I thought that was nice. I thought it was nice because she's sort of like a pure spirit, and she's like, "Oh, I forgive you." And it's I like that aspect of it. That would be a part that I'd keep in. If I was going to redo this comic, I'd keep that part in because I think that's a nice little thing to show, like, oh, he's a bit of compassion, because then you could bring that element and, you know, the page of him crying, you could use that in a future story for something. You could use this as like a setup for the future.
Yeah, yeah.
But then again, it's just your dad comes back in and is like, you fucked up, son. It's like, how did he fuck up? How did he fuck up?
You showed heart. You cried. You showed compassion. How dare you?
I think he did cry, but I don't think it really ever showed compassion. Where was the compassion?
I think it was like, there was the scene before where like he was almost he was groveling at Ghost Rider, going like, come on, you know how it feels.
That's not compassion. That's pleading for your life. I think compassion would have worked if it was the other way around. Like he was like,
yeah, I suppose.
Maybe I won't torture you.
maybe just I'm twisted and I don't know what compassion really is.
Oh. You'll learn, Paul. You'll learn. But yeah, I don't think... is there much else to say on these two issues?
Pretty much covered it. As I say, I did go fully on, and I apologise for my quick run through the 90s Ghost Rider history.
No. I thought, like I say, it was very interesting. Here's a question, though, Paul.
Yeah.
This was an okay introduction to Ghost Rider, but I think, we'll need to have you back on for something a bit more meaty, a bit more Ghost Rider.
I think we're going to... There's a few. Midnight Suns we've talked about. Mm-hmm. The 6-issue core series there. That's some loveliness there.
You did tickle me with some interest with Midnight Suns, to be fair, because that's a team book. Yeah. That's like the DC Magic Users book, you know, which no one ever fucking talks about. Mm-hmm. And it's like I'd never heard of Midnight Suns until the video game came out. I was like, what the fuck's the Midnight Suns?
Now, there's a core in our little group. There's a core of us that remembered the Midnight Suns with joy and love.
Oh man!
And it's a very part of our heart there. But there's a few of us. There's lots of little bits, and I'd say Wild Catch is my man.
Mm-hmm.
To be honest, you know, there's some good runs in the later Johnny Blaze stuff. I never liked the original Ghost Rider run, the Volume 1 stuff.
What's bad about it? Or they didn't hook you? Is it just too generic, too plain?
It's too silver. It's too Silver Era. You know, it's very much of its time. I never really got into that sort of like 60s, 70s.
No. I mean, they're classics, but yeah, I like the 90s and the late 80s to the 90s are kind of when they started pushing story a little bit more, at least ideas more, I think. Exactly,
yeah, and I think that was it. It looked good, and it started something off, but I've got them, I've read them, but it just doesn't engage me like it, since the Danny Ketch era.
It's like reading original Superman. It's like,
very much so, yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah. No, I am more than willing, if you will have me, for me to embrace my in a spirit of vengeance once more.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I've said this. I don't know if I've said this on the show, but I think I want to do this because it's a way to introduce me to maybe comics that I not read usually. Like Spawn the Dark Ages. This is definitely another one, and Midnight Suns is definitely another one as well.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure between us and myself and a lot of other people, we'll introduce you to the dark side of comics.
Yay!
Off the beaten path.
Yes, yeah. I'm hoping you don't mean like terrible writing.
No. There's oh man, there's so much out there that isn't mainstream, so to speak, which is good. Bone. Have you ever heard of Bone?
No, never heard of Bone.
Oh,
just the one in my pants.
And is that on fire as well, like the Ghost Rider?
It is, but that's a clinical disease, I'll have you know. But you know,
that would be quite interesting. Ghost Rider with a boner. I'll leave that in your mind for a little bit there.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Paul.
Yeah,
Paul, where can people find you on the internet if you want them to contact you? If you don't have anything, that's A-OK as well.
I think, to be honest, I'm mostly on Facebook now. That's about the only thing. I do have a Twitter account, and I am on Discord. If you look up Logan Blaze, you'll probably find some iteration of me. But if you're going to find me, it's Paul Anderson on Facebook. It's the little images of me and my wife, but I'm the one dressed up as a female.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah.
Cool.
I look good in drag.
Yes, I remember, Paul. I remember. That
was a magical night, wasn't it?
There were times, I can tell you that much. There were times that existed for people. Well,
we had some stories.
Well, we're going to have to wrap up the show here, folks. Yep. Thank you for joining us tonight. Thank you, Paul, as well, for coming on and talking to me. It's nice having you around and talking to you about things.
Likewise.
This will be up. That's right. I decided to put this one up this month as well. The Dark Age of Spawn went up technically at the end of last month, and the free version is going to be on this month. And this will be on this month as well, primarily because I realized once Paul sent me this issue, it was probably going to be a quick show. And so, you know, it'll start being one a month effectively from here on out. But yeah, thank you for everyone supporting us. You can find me on the Moonbase 2 forums, Facebook's Libsyns, iTunes, all those places that you get the podcast. We're also on YouTube as Moonbase 2 Transformers Podcast. I'm Decayed Andy on Twitter and Twitch and YouTube, as in a decayed corpse of a person, not a 10-year period. So thank you very much, everybody, and we will see you for another round of comics next month, I suppose. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.